In this video, we will show you how to replace your engine cooling fan on this Honda Civic. This will be located along the front of your engine compartment. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. We're going to remove this forward plastic panel across the top of this area. To remove this, you're going to find that it has several plastic push clips holding it in place, making their way all the way across. We'll start with the push clips. For each of these, I'm going to be using a trim tool. Just carefully start pulling out the center and the rest of it should lift up and out of position. Just a quick inspection, make sure these are reusable, replace them as necessary. Now on either side of this plastic panel, you're going to find that you have a 5.5mm Allen head mounting bolt holding this panel in place. Let's remove the pair. As we start removing this plastic panel, you're going to find that it makes its way underneath the front grille. So we're going to have to carefully lift up, pull it away, and then pull it out of position. The next thing I like to do is drain the coolant. For this, we're going to start up along the radiator cap. Just make sure it's cool to the touch. You never want to open this if your vehicle has been running for a while and it's hot. We'll press this down, turn it counterclockwise. Now as we lift this up and away, we want to have it away from our face, of course. Just a quick inspection of that radiator cap. Replace it as necessary. Continuing from here, I'm just going to rest this right on top of the radiator, and let's make our way down along the center of the engine compartment for our drain. Now if you were looking all the way down along the center area here, you can feel down along the driver's side of the radiator. This is where the drain is going to be. Looking just below it, there's a small port. You want to make sure you have a collection receptacle under that area to collect and recycle all this coolant properly. We'll take hold of this plastic drain plug, turn it counterclockwise until coolant comes out. Let it fully drain. Let's make our way all the way down to the bottom of that radiator to close that drain. Make sure that's nice and tight. You don't want to have a leak there. Now let's start dislodging our upper radiator bulkhead here. For this, you're going to find that it has several bolts holding it in place. We're going to start on one side of the vehicle. There's 3 10mm headed mounting bolts, 2 out in the open, the other one's tucked in just behind this area. Get that next one along the back side here. Now we can repeat the process on the other side. Now we've got quite a bit of movement here, but we need a little bit more slack from our hood release cable and also from our wiring harness along the driver's side here. So I'm just going to dislodge each of these two. Using a trim tool, it'll pop that up and out. Continuing from here, we're going to lift this up. It can only come so far. We're going to start pushing it away and towards the engine. Okay, the other side. Let's pay attention to our wiring harness leading over towards our engine fan. We're going to dislodge it from its securing point, part of the radiator there. I'm just going to squeeze on the 2 locking ears along the forward side here. We can pull that out of place. Disconnect the electrical connector. For this, it has a locking tab right where my index finger is. We'll squeeze it in and push that out of place. Quick inspection for corrosion. Along the top of the radiator, we're going to disconnect our overflow hose from the radiator. For this, typically you should be able to take hold of the hose, give it a little twist to separate it. If it's stuck in place, you can use a pick or just pry it out of place. Just be extremely careful. Set that aside. Let's move along to our upper radiator hose. This has a squeezable clamp, so I'm just going to squeeze on the ears. We'll pull this out of place away from the radiator. For this radiator hose, I'm using my pick. We'll get this separated. Make sure your hose is soft and pliable, not torn, worn, or damaged. We'll set that aside. Let's flex that radiator forward. Obviously, we don't want to cause any damage, but we have to dislodge our coolant reservoir from that fan assembly. You'll find that there's a 10mm bolt holding this in place. Use my ratcheting wrench. Once you have the bolt out of there, take hold of the coolant reservoir. We're going to lift it up and maneuver it. Down at the bottom, there's a small locating tab that we have to dislodge. Up along the top of the radiator, you're going to find that you have two 10mm bolts holding this fan in place. Let's remove the pair. Just take hold of that fan assembly. We're going to have to lift it up and remove it from this area. Now, as we start lifting this up, you can only come up so far. You have to look all the way down on the bottom driver's side corner of this fan assembly. You're going to find that there's a wiring harness pressed into the bottom there. You should be able to gain access to that from the top. Just go ahead and pop it out of place. We have it separated. Remove your fan. There it is, friend. Now it's time to install the brand new fan assembly. Along the bottom of it, you have two small locating tabs that will slide into the bottom of that radiator. A little bit of a tight fit, trying to get everything to squeeze into position here. There we are. Just double check, make sure each one of those two lower tabs is in position by tugging on the bottom of that fan. It should not pull away. Now we'll install our fan assembly mounting bolts up along the top. Once they're started in, snug them up. It's time for the coolant reservoir. We're just going to try to work this around so we can get that lower tab into the radiator. It's fairly difficult to see, but once you do slide it in, it should align that mounting bolt. We can start in the mounting bolt and, of course, snug that up as well. Okay, right there is bottomed out. Make sure that's tight. Let's install that overflow hose. Press it onto the radiator as far as possible. Double check, make sure it's secured in place. Now it's time for the upper radiator hose. Press it on as far as possible, reinstall the clamp into the original position. Just put our cap here so nothing falls inside there. Now we can get this in position. Bring it in here. Along the top, there's several areas that we need to pay attention to. Of course, we have the mounting bolt ports, but we also have the ports for the radiator and also the ports for the AC condenser. Everything needs to be aligned on both sides of the vehicle. Along each side of this, you should find that you have 3 10mm mounting bolts. They're all started in, let's snug them up. Now just do the same on the other side. Let's take care of our wiring harness there. We also have our hood release cable. Plug in the electrical connector and then secure the wiring harness. Now we've just got our wiring harness right down inside this port right here. Just want to press it in. Now it's time for the upper panel. Start getting this in position. We'll have to gently pull out on that front grille. It needs to slide into its corresponding slots here on the panel. Let's start with our 2 mounting bolts here. The other one started in as well. They're both started in, snug them up. It's time for several push clips making their way all the way across this panel. For any of the push clips, go ahead and press in the outer portion first. Lock it in by pressing in the center. Okay, now it's time to fill the cooling system. When doing so, we're going to remove our radiator cap here. Continuing on, we want to continue adding the manufacturer's specified fluid directly inside of the radiator. There's several different ways you can do this. You can use a coolant funnel. Otherwise, if you have a specialty tool, you can also use that. I have the specialty tool. Now for this tool, it's essentially going to create vacuum pressure inside the cooling system. Not only is it going to fill the cooling system, but it's also going to tell me if I have a leak before I install any coolant. Now we're going to pay attention to the gauge here. As I power up the air, you're going to see the vacuum gauge make its way through the red, through the yellow, and into the green. Essentially, once it's in the green and at approximately 25 down here on the chart, we're going to wait and make sure that that's where it sits, and once we turn off the air, we want to make sure that the needle does not drop. If it starts dropping into the yellow or worse into the red, you definitely have a coolant leak and you'd want to fix that before adding coolant. Now I have my vacuum pressure on the system here. You can tell that it's definitely holding vacuum. We don't have a leak. The needle is not dropping into the yellow or, like I said, into the red. I've let this sit for a little while here. So let's continue on adding coolant. Now I'm using some universal coolant here. You can either use universal or you can use the manufacturer's specified coolant. Let's continue on. I'm going to open up the line here. This is going to draw coolant from inside of my coolant jug and draw it directly down into the cooling system. As this is happening, we're going to find that we're losing vacuum. That's due to the fact we're drawing coolant into the system. As we continue on, we want to make sure we don't run out of coolant if you're using the specialty tool. There we are. Now, if you didn't have that tool, you could continue on with a coolant funnel, as I mentioned. For that, you just want to have the specific adapter that fits directly onto the radiator. You don't want to have any movement here. Continue on with that funnel, remove the plunger from in the center, and add coolant as necessary. Once you have added coolant, the next thing you need to do is wait until you don't see any more air bubbles making its way out of the system. At that point, the next thing you have to do is go ahead and start up the vehicle, let it run for a short while, and what's going to happen is as the thermostat opens up, the coolant will start circulating throughout the entire cooling system and removing any air. Once you're sure the coolant system's full, continue on to reinstalling your radiator cap. After that, you just want to make sure that you check and top off your coolant reservoir as necessary. Just go ahead and turn that cap counterclockwise and remove it. Add your coolant, reinstall it. Okay, friend, we finished the installation of our fan assembly. The next thing we need to do is just clean up any mess. We're going to double check for leaks and then, of course, take our vehicle for a road test, testing the functionality of our fan. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.